So I want to show you one more option for how you can work on C# remotely. So if you can't get your Visual Studio installation working and you can't get onto our virtual machines at Columbia, this will be your final fallback. And it's not supported by the college. It's not officially supported, by the class. It's just something that I've found online that could be useful if you struggle to get either of the preferred options, your own installation or the virtual machines working. And it's called Repl. And so it's a service that allows you in the browser to write your C# and run it. And you can sign up for an account from the homepage, Repl.it. And when you do, you end up in an interface like this, where you can create a new Repl for a project. So in the context of this service, you can think of Repl as a project. And one thing I want to point out is that accounts are currently free. So there's the starter plan that'll give you plenty of storage and memory and virtual computing power for running the assignments in this class. But I also can't guarantee that this service will be free forever. So I'll at least just point out that there are paid plans that give you more speed and more storage. So if you log in and set up your account and then click New Repl up at the top here, you will get this drop down that gives you the option to create a new Repl, a new project for a number of different languages. I have C# when I was signing up for my account selected as one of my favorite languages, so it shows up here. You can also start typing to filter C#, and then you can name your project. Let's call this Repl ITP demo. And because I have a free plan, every Repl that I make is public. There's no way for me to create a private one, so I don't want to create any projects that have private information or have startup IP in them using this service. So create the Repl, and then you're dropped into what should be a semi-familiar interface. So we have on the left side here a panel that is where our files are. This would be equivalent to the Solution Explorer in Visual Studio. We have this panel in the center, which is where our tabs will be open for our different files. And then on the right-hand side, we have the output. So if I hit run, this code will compile. That's what this line is doing. This line is running the executable, and then we can see the output here. And if we look over in the first panel, we can see there's actually an exe that's been generated that you could probably download and run on your machine. We can edit this. We could say, hello world from ITP, run it. It's going to do the same thing, compile, run the executable, and we'll see the latest changes being printed out. So with this interface, you can grab the handles, you can resize your panels. There's also a settings menu where you can choose your layout, how you want the windows laid out, horizontally or vertically. You can toggle between light and dark mode. You can change your font size, indentation, etc. So we can do things that are similar to what we do in class. One of the key differences is that in Repl, the entry point is in a main.cs file. So we still have our public static void main method, and that's what is the entry point. That's the thing that runs for every application. But instead of being in program.cs, it's in main.cs. And there's actually no way to delete this file from Repl. So when you're working in this, you're just going to have to work in main.cs instead of program.cs. But we can still create other classes. So if we wanted to keep our main method pretty clean with as little as possible, we could create a new game.cs class game, and I want to use system, and then we'll do something similar to like what we've done in class where we create a run method. We can console.writeLine, game is starting. Game over, and just pretend we built a game here. So we've got a new class with a public method called run, which means that we can come back into main, and instead of doing console.writeLine here, we could game my game equals new game my game dot run. Should compile, prints out the game is starting, and then game over. This is saving automatically up here. We can also see what happens if I leave a semicolon out and hit run. We can see we're going to get our error messages here. It would be great to have them inline in the coding interface. It doesn't seem to be a feature of Repl at the moment. Maybe it'll be one in the future. So if you're trying to debug your code, you're going to have to look at what the error was or errors were in your output, look at the line number and the column number, and roughly use that to map back to where the error occurred. So it seems like this isn't mapping exactly to what we wrote over here, but it's telling us it's in main.cs. It's somewhere around, oh no, it is actually perfectly mapping. So it's telling us the error is down here, that it got to the semicolon, this curly bracket, and and it expected a semicolon after our last line. So we would just come in and fix that. So it's always a good idea to back up your projects. This is saved in the Repl website, so they have stored this on their servers. So if I leave the page and come back later, like here I'm just refreshing it, the project will be there. Whatever I've saved should hopefully be there. But we can also download. So if we hit this download as a zip, this will give us a download. I can open this up, extract it, and we can see in here we have our game file, we have our main.cs, and we have our executable. And so this doesn't give us a Visual Studio project, but if we were working in here and then wanted to port this over to Visual Studio, it wouldn't be that hard to then add these into our Visual Studio project. Last thing that I wanted to show you with Repl is that you can actually drag and drop files into this interface. So if instead of creating this game project, I want to get rid of this, and I'll delete the old exe. So we just have this basic main.cs, but I could go into my desktop, go to my class files, pull up maybe the journal app that we created in my class relatively recently, and then I could drag program, journal app, and journal.txt in here. And so journal.txt, this is the text file where the journal contents are being saved. The journal app loads that file and then gives us a menu where you can press 1, 2, 3, or 4 to display the contents, clear the file, append some text, or stop using the journal and close the application. So in order to port this over to Repl, we would have to open up our program, and the contents of this we would want to bring over into our main so that we have the same namespace that we used in our journal app here. And we still have our static main function. So this will instantiate a new journal and run it, and then we can get rid of the original program. So now our program is called main.cs, and if we run it, we could see the journal, we could read the journal, we could clear the journal, read it again and see that it's empty, quit the journal. So we can take projects that we built already, you can bring them into this interface, so you could download the solutions to projects from past weeks and play around with them in this interface. And then wrapping up, when you come back, if you go to the home page and then you click on My Repls, you will see all of the ones that you have under your account here. So I have a couple. You probably want to name them better than Repl ITP demo. But that's it. This, again, consider this to be the last possible fallback. If you can't get Visual Studio to work on your machine and can't get remote access to a machine that has Visual Studio running on it, you have this third option that's free and works in the browser, so should work on most systems.